Welcome to Melis Fairy. As we're approaching the 3-month mark of the release of Tears of the Kingdom, it's becoming more and more of a reality that the DLC will be announced at any point now, and today I wanted to list 8 things that I really hope we get in the Tears of the Kingdom DLC. There will be spoilers of the main story in this video, so watch at your own risk. Okay, let's get into it. At number 8 I have more Sky Islands content. Considering the Sky Islands were the majorly advertised area before the game's release, and the hype built around the possibilities that it could entail, I think the general consensus is that the Sky Islands can be a bit underwhelming in comparison to the surface and even the depths. It's an area mostly reserved for shrine quests, and although some of the main quests do connect to certain sky locations, it still feels very vast and empty in comparison to the rest of the map. I'd love for more Sky Islands to open up in the DLC, and to see Sky Islands that look a little different and give us more insight into the origin of the Zonai. At number 7 I have the draconification of the 3 main dragons. In the main story of Tears of the Kingdom, we learn about the ancient and forbidden practice of draconification. It is explained that by swallowing a secret stone, one can become an eternal dragon, whilst also losing themselves in the process, as we see happen with the Light Dragon. That heavily implies that the 3 main dragons, Farosh, Dinro, and Naydra, were once people who went through the draconification process. Considering the lore connection between the dragons and the elements of the Triforce, and also the fact that they are described as ancient spirits that now roam in the form of dragons, we need to know more. Were they Hylians? Were they Zonai? Why did they decide to swallow secret stones? How did they have the secret stones to begin with? There are so many unanswered questions. At number 6 I have Trial of the Sword. Considering the new abilities and locations that Tears of the Kingdom has provided to us, a Trial of the Sword could have endless possibilities of really fun and inventive levels. When you think of fusing things around you to your weapons, and ascending up stone taluses and recalling objects, the thought of going into a trial like that sounds 10 times more fun than it did in Breath of the Wild. Not to mention all the new enemies and mini-bosses that we can come across now. It needs to happen. At number 5 I have Master Mode. This is probably the only item on this list that we're guaranteed to have. I would be really surprised if there was no Master Mode. Tears of the Kingdom has proven to be way more difficult than Breath of the Wild in terms of casual play, making the players rely on strategy when approaching enemies more than ever before. Not only that, but the economy in Hyrule is awful in this game, and unless you have a lot of amiibos at your disposal, it's not very easy to face enemies in the early game. Master Mode will give players even more of a challenge and encourage everyone to replay the game. At number 4 I have the Divine Beasts. One of the biggest criticisms Tears of the Kingdom has received is the complete erasure of Sheikah technology. While in Breath of the Wild we fully relied on it, in Tears of the Kingdom it's just vanished. There are references to Guardian parts being reused, and it's fair to assume that it wasn't safe to keep using this technology because of how easily it got corrupted, but no one really references where the Divine Beasts went. These are huge structures that couldn't have easily been destroyed or moved. Whether we see them again in some type of puzzle or maybe in the depths, I feel like they need addressing, even if it's a simple dialogue that gives us a bit more closure. On that note, at number 3 I have Guardians. I miss them, I'm sorry. It might not be a popular opinion, but there's something about the atmosphere of the Guardian music that still remains unmatched. One might argue that the Gloom Hands have taken their place, and while I can see why someone would think that, I do think that having a Gloom Guardian hiding in the depths will be the coolest thing ever, especially if it's a complete surprise to the player. Imagine you're walking in the dark in a new area of the depths, and you can't see or hear anything, and then suddenly the Guardian music starts playing. It would be epic. At number 2 I have Cass. You can't really find a Tears of the Kingdom in-depth review that doesn't mention the fact that Cass is gone. We don't know where he went, if something happened to him, if he's even alive. Cass is a beloved character that became the unofficial storyteller of Breath of the Wild, and considering Tears of the Kingdom has so much lore, not having Cass with his accordion leaves a huge gap in our hearts. Cass has a huge role in the Breath of the Wild Champions Ballad DLC, so it would be very fitting if he came back for the Tears of the Kingdom one. No other character can tell a story like Cass, and the fans miss him. And finally at number 1 I have Rauru and Sonia's child. On the first memory we get in Tears of the Kingdom, at the start of the Dragon's Tears Geoglyph quest, we see Zelda waking up in the past and meeting Rauru and Sonia, the first king and queen of Hyrule. Sonia right away mentions that she can tell that there's a blood connection between them. Sonia tragically dies in one of the following memories, and we never see or hear any mention of her and Rauru having a child, which would make Zelda existing impossible. So the conclusion is that this child remained hidden from the narrative so that the player can learn about them in the future. The DLC is the perfect space to reveal who this child is and what their role was in the imprisoning war and all the events that took place. If they don't bring this up in the DLC, then they will need to do it in a future game, but there's no guarantee that the next Zelda game will be in the same universe, so the DLC is the place and time to do it in my opinion. Those were my 8 wishes for the Tears of the Kingdom DLC. What did you think? Do you have other wishes? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.